Following is a conversation with Carla Isabel Azevedo, who is a Portuguese language teacher at the Language Center at University of Minho, Braga, Portugal. Carla taught me my first, that is the A1 level Portuguese language course, and will also be teaching the next courses that I take. During the conversation, we try to explore the nature of learning a new language and also explore her personal experiences with different languages. This was the first podcast experience ever for both of us, and we had a great time. And I hope whoever watches it has the same experience. So, without further ado, let's start. You were asking me before this, we can actually, because you were asking me why have I started to do
Yeah, I'm
podcasting?
very curious why I've decided to
I
podcast.
Yeah, I decided because first of all, I realized that here I have a lot of free time also after I'm done with my research work. And then I thought, I do something that I can try to sustain for like 4 years from here, and then I can have some in a way I can have if I have a podcast, then I learn how to talk to people, how to communicate with people. and
Okay.
and let's say if I do it for continuously for 4 years, then it means that after 4 years I'll have a lot of information about random topics, because this podcast I'm planning, it doesn't have a it doesn't have a sort of a subject that I'm going to cover. Like it can be anything. It could be some I next after you, I have a friend who's from Morocco who's a pop dancer. So
Okay.
he does popping. So for me it's like I want to know people, and with that, in that process I learn so much stuff, and I'm just looking at it in terms of a long term plan. And after 4 years I will have a lot of stuff that I would know, and also I'll learn how to communicate.
Yeah.
And therefore in that process, in the beginning there will be so many mistakes when we exchanged ideas.
Yeah.
So I'm like open to that. That's how we'll learn. So the idea is just this, to have something which improves my articulation overall. This is the overall idea in it. This is just that. And here, after I'm done working, I realize I can read books on different topics, and then
Mm,
maybe I can ask people to, whoever is an expert in that topic, to come, and then maybe I can
yeah.
share whatever questions I have developed during that reading part, and then they can
Yeah.
help me think about them. And in this
Yeah.
process we both exchange ideas and end up knowing more than we started with.
Exactly.
This is
And
the
no
overall.
better way to learn about new topics while chatting with someone that
Oh yeah,
knows as
exactly.
is an expert on the topic, and at the same time is more engaging in
Exactly.
so
Also
because
there's
of course we can read, of course we can search information on ourselves,
right.
but it's definitely more motivating and engaging when we talk with the people that knows a lot about that and can teach us something. And same way we exchange ideas and we talk, and it's a very good idea, Naman.
Yeah,
Excellent.
actually
I will
there's
learn from you as well. Huh? I'm
so
not the guest of this podcast. I will learn from you too.
oh yeah, sure. I've learned a lot in just setting up this whole system that I have right now. And I just figured out like at 4 p.m. I was able to figure out how to actually do a podcast. So it's not that I actually knew. Just before this podcast I was able to figure it out. Also, adding to what you said, I think one of the reasons I am putting it out on YouTube is because once we make something a bit formal, although the conversation should be informal, but once we know that it's going to go out on the internet, then we are much sharper with our words, right? Then we think and say slightly more carefully than how we will say it in person. So I think that also helps sharpen the thought, the thinking
Okay,
process. So this is also one of the reasons
another
which
idea. But are you planning to keep this format on virtual format, or are you planning to do it face to face as well?
uh,
So far, this Zoom format is easier, I guess,
right
because
for
you
now.
can make it from anywhere.
Yeah, for now I don't think I have any ideas of keeping it face to face, unless I know
Mm.
someone and someone is around, because most of the things I'll be doing would be people from, maybe from India or from, so it's like it seems doesn't seem very possible to do it one to one. But let's see, if I can find someone here who is interested in talking, we can arrange a face to face. Maybe next time, with when I have it again with you, we do it face to
Yeah,
face.
who knows? Yeah, I think I'm
Yeah.
the closest one from you.
Yes, yes, yes,
And
for
we
sure.
are actually doing it from Zoom.
Yeah, 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 for
Okay,
sure.
nice.
No
One thing
details.
I know about PhD students as you is
Mm-hmm.
that you're as you are so used to spend hours preparing your dissertation and reading.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
No problem.
You it's I mean, because I have some friends that are doing and did the PhDs, and I met them while they were studying. One thing I realized is that students like you, they really read a lot on many topics as they are in this process of reading and writing and reflecting and analyzing, and they search information. So they search there's people so well informed because you're really prepared to read on many topics and to research.
Oh yeah,
And sometimes I think it's kind of escape to go out a bit from the topic of your
sure, sure.
dissertation, to start to read on so many other things.
Always, that's always the
And
reason.
that's so yeah. This I saw that from my friends as well. Those who are doing the PhD,
Mm-hmm.
in the moment I met them, they're so informed. They know about everything, and they are very good. We have always something to learn with them because they really the knowledge is very diverse and very
Sure.
nice. You feel that as well, Raman, with you?
uh, Not with me, because like I have just now started to earlier, before even starting the PhD or even in my undergrad, I was not someone who would read a lot. I would listen to podcasts and stuff, and it's nowadays you can replace reading with podcasts actually, because podcasts kind of do the same things. So I
Yeah.
used to listen to a lot of podcasts, and with that I realized that I have developed interest in many fields. So I would say that is true, but uh, it's not that everyone I know is interested in things, to be honest. Like there
Okay.
are many people who are interested in ideas, and ideas could be across their research topics or across
Okay.
anything. But
Okay.
it's not that everyone I meet, most of them actually I feel are not that interested in developing or learning ideas across different topics.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is kind of true, because your own work forces you to understand things which you have never seen, and then if something else comes up, you are like, okay, you're fine with learning that also. So it does help for sure. That is for
Yeah.
sure.
In a way, it's your life, I guess, because
Yes.
you're getting prepared to search for information, to analyze it, to reflect on it, and
Right.
to give an opinion on it. So you
Sure,
kind
sure.
of anything you read around you, you do that
Yeah, 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 yeah.
process.
For sure.
Um,
It
so especially with the politics, but I mean it's with anything, with the movies or
oh
anything.
yeah.
I realized that people who has an academic life, they're really prepared to discuss on any topic
Oh yes, yes, yes.
across any theme.
Yeah.
I have this feeling with I mean, this idea with my friends or people I know, which is really nice.
I think what happens is, at least with me, like discussing things has made me comfortable questioning things. So I'm
Okay.
fine with questioning things, that if something has happened, I would like to know an objective reasoning for it, so I would not fall trap to any random explanation. So
Yeah.
that makes you question more and more. So in my case, that has definitely helped, like just question everything, and in that process you end up knowing more than what you earlier knew. So yeah, for sure, that is true.
Yeah, definitely.
In terms of languages, how many languages have you learned personally?
Okay. I've started with French
Oh wow.
because yeah, I don't speak French at the moment,
Uh-huh.
but I've started to study French in my seventh grade.
Okay.
Um, Not actually fifth grade. So when you move to segundo ciclo, fifth grade in Portugal,
Okay.
you have to choose one foreign language to study. And on that time, for French, well, you have always French and English to
Mhm.
choose from. But I opted from French because my parents were French teachers.
Okay.
They are primary school teachers, but on that time as well, it was common that primary school teachers also have this variant of another language, and they used to teach French. So in my house was common to hear and speak a bit of French. I studied French for 7 years, and I was good on it. I had good marks in French. I can't really say if I was a good speaker because I never really spoke French with native speakers. Okay. I've never been in a French-speaking country or been exposed to speak the native language, so I can't really say. Probably not. Probably I'm not. I was not a good. My speaking skill was not so as good as I expected. But you know, because when you study it, and it's still a problem with the language, I think. But especially when I was studying, now that I look back, I realize that the contents were too focused on grammar and writing and reading, and not as much to speaking or listening or using the language in the daily life context. Or so of course I was good because with the grammar you just memorize and you reproduce it. And write it the same. So I mean, if you studied a bit or if you pay attention in classes, well, you'll be fine, I guess. So that was a bit of my experience with learning French and also with English. So what happens is when I finished studying French, I stopped using it or hearing, or because, you know, with English, you listen to music, you watch movies, so you always in contact with the languages, the language. But with the French, or you look for opportunities to use it, or they are lost. And as a teenager, of course, you don't look for opportunities to speak French. For me, it was just a subject at school, so I didn't really care about it. you know. So I stopped hearing, speaking, listening, whatever in French, and then I totally forgot. Of course, now I'm familiarized with the language. If I read something, okay, I can get half of the meanings, but I'm totally not able to speak at the moment. And then almost at the same time, I started learning English in an English school. An English, like an institute outside of a school.
In the school, you had a choice across among either French or English.
Yes, but then I think it's on the 7th grade. You can have both. So you start having both. But I start with the English a bit earlier. So with the French, I start on my 5th grade, and with English, I start on my 7th grade, 6th. So just the year after. In an English institute. The experience was more or less the same as the one with the French. So still very focused on grammar, reading, And then, but my marks were fine, were good as well. And when I applied for university, I decided to apply to be a teacher, and I have this option to be. I am actually, my degree is in teaching primary, Portuguese, and English. And so my first idea was to be when I was studying at university. I wanted to be English teacher. This is now that I look back and so I was very focused on improving my English to be an English teacher. And so when I finished, but I still have this feeling that I was not developing enough to be a teacher of a foreign language, because all my teachers at school were, and also at school were Portuguese,
Okay.
and at university I have some native speakers, teachers. They were native speaker from America, from South Africa, but the modules were so. I mean, it was literature and were literature. What else? Well, many, in fact.
Mhm.
And I still felt that my skill of speaking, and especially speaking, was a bit back. I was not ready. I wasn't fine with the reading, with interpreting the text, but this confidence to talk with the people, to talk with the normal life. I was better writing academic texts in English than having a normal conversation, formal conversation.
Right.
This is a bit strange.
Yeah.
So when I finished my degree, I've decided to do a 2 months course in London.
Oh, that's why. Okay, that's why you
Yeah.
went to London. You were telling us one story in one of the classes, right? When you went to London. So this is why you went to London.
Yeah, I went to London because I was always I did a 5 years degree, and in all this period I was always looking for an opportunity or internship or some kind of way to go to London or to go to UK to practice the language.
Right.
On that time, my parents were very protective and they were always pushing me back. I told you already how protective they are. So they were like, no, why are you going there? You're okay, we're fine, don't go, stay here, blah, blah, blah. I said, no, come on, I needed to do it for myself and for my future. So yeah, in the end, I went to London. I did this 2 months course. I found my partner there, still my partner. Okay. It was in 2012.
He's from England.
No, it's from Italy, but I met him there.
Okay.
Yeah, and and then I fall in love because I like this contact with other cultures, to learn from other people, a bit like you, to learn from other people, be in contact with other cultures. Like, no, I should stay here a bit longer. I should get all of this experience, and then the year after, I moved to London.
Okay.
I came back. I prepared everything. I was teaching in Portugal in English in a primary school. I really didn't like that enough. I mean, not as much as I enjoy teaching Portuguese. Okay. So on that time, I didn't know, because you just finish a degree, you want to start working. It's your first experience, so you're doing your best and everything. Right. But when I moved to London, I started having opportunities with the Portuguese. I start to apply for jobs, obviously, and most of them for Portuguese. And because I didn't feel confident enough to teach English in UK, okay, I was like, no, I'm not going to start with English. First, I need to improve my skills, and then one day I might do that, but not at the moment. So I started applying for jobs in Portuguese, and as a very good coincidence, it was on the time that they were doing the Olympics in Brazil. It was 2013.
Oh yeah, 14, I guess. Yeah.
So many people were looking. They were looking for Portuguese courses and classes because they wanted to somehow Brazil to be involved in the Olympics. Right. And then so I start from that, and then I find other jobs. I grew up with there, but I started to have this first experience as Portuguese as second language, which was very interesting for me. Sure. And then I continue, and then I stopped with English totally. And now it's funny because many companies contact me here in Portugal because I've experienced to be abroad in England. I have my CV, I'm an English teacher. So they contact me to have classes in the company, like teaching.
Teaching them English, right?
Yeah.
I see. Tell me? Teaching them English here.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Makes sense.
I've done some courses like that, but for me it's not the same. The heart I put on it is not the same as teaching Portuguese. I think it's something related with teaching your own language and teaching foreign language.
Right. And then you also learned Italian, right? You already know it.
Yeah. So the French, the English, and then Italian.
Right.
Because of my partner,
Sure.
I started with learning Italian, and actually, it's interesting because when I was teaching Portuguese, because now I stay in UK for 6 years, and I was teaching Portuguese in the University of Exeter, and my students, most of them, have studied Spanish, so they used to have a lot of interference from Spanish in the Portuguese learning.
Yeah.
So I started to think, no, I think I should maybe study or develop study of Spanish so I can understand them better, the mistakes they make, this kind of thing. But then, when I met my partner, it was like, okay, but I think at the moment I probably need more Italian to learn Italian than Spanish.
Right.
Not because of him, because we speak, actually I speak Portuguese, he speaks Italian, so we communicate like that.
Oh, that's nice.
We started with English.
Okay.
But now we said, okay, we need to start to learn each other's language. Yeah. So we do it this way. And when I'm with his family and when he's with my family, we speak each other's language. And it's completely broke language, but we try.
Nice. Speaking, sorry. Go.
No, tell me.
No, I was saying that you just told me about this interference of Spanish. Like if someone speaks Spanish, then they have a little hard time adapting to Portuguese. Is it like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it will be easier. Of course, there are many similarities between the two languages.
Right.
Of course, once you learn Spanish, for you will be much easier to learn Portuguese.
Okay.
But when you're Spanish, or when you're the advanced speaker of Spanish, then learning Portuguese, it's so hard, especially with your pronunciation, especially, sure. and also with the fossilized mistakes. So like this mistake, you know very well the morphology of the Spanish language. So you tend to transfer it to Portuguese because you think like, oh, it's similar, it's the same. They say in a very similar way, and the difference are so so few or so
small, very close.
Small, then it's pass one time, pass twice, 3 times, and you keep doing the same mistakes.
Right.
And so improving with the Portuguese when you are very good in Spanish, it's hard. In this sense, because I think your autocorrection needs to be there always.
Right.
You need to be very conscious of every single thing you say, especially with the pronunciation. And with the writing, you have time to reread and correct and check on it.
Right.
But when speaking, you really need to autocorrect yourself deeply.
Right.
But I have very good students with this, that they are very good in Spanish and they are very good in Portuguese, and they swap language. You don't realize. Wow. They of course you find people that they are outstanding in languages. They are great, so they will be great anyway.
Sure.
But common learners
like me.
It's a bit hard. Yes, I don't feel the same way with Italian, Portuguese, even though they are similar in many ways. With the Spanish is harder.
So is it because Spanish is much closer to Portuguese than Italian?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
It's okay. And if we extend this argument, because you have the almost similar script as what is in English, right? So do you think for a Portuguese speaker, is it easier to learn or understand or to learn to speak English, or do you think it interferes because the script is same, almost same, and just the accents and stuff, the way you pronounce it changes? So do you think it makes it complicated for them to learn English, or is it much smoother?
For Spanish speakers to learn English.
For a Portuguese or a Spanish person uh, to
English.
speak English, yeah. Does it
Uh,
play any role? Like, does it lead to any difficulty?
no, I think it's the same as any other language.
Mm-hmm.
We have this idea that we Portuguese speak have more. We having more facility to learn English than Spanish. That
Okay.
is common sense. I mean, there's no scientific truth
Sure,
behind
sure.
that, but that's what people say.
Right.
Um, and But to be honest, I think it's just it's much more than that. It's not a common idea people say, but I've met Spanish speakers. They are brilliant,
Mm-hmm.
um, and but perhaps the only thing I find maybe a bit harder for them is the pronunciation, because in fact with the Spanish they have the don't have the nasal vowels as we have in English or in Portuguese,
Mm-hmm.
and so all the vowels are open, are
Right.
very oral,
Right.
and of course they could struggle a bit more with the pronunciation.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, in terms of other areas of the language, I mean, it's all a question of studying,
Practicing.
embedding the culture, dedicating, practicing, as in any other language.
Right.
It doesn't
Right.
be easier or harder.
Right. And when you like, do you think people should prefer language apps? Are they good? They may not be better than the language course, right? Like doing an actual language course. But do you think are
Mm.
the apps good enough right now to in a
Like
way,
Duolingo,
Duolingo something,
Babel.
like are they good enough to in a way replace your job?
I use them as well for Italian, and
Uh-huh.
I think they are good because it helps you to memorize the vocabulary.
Sure.
Because all the little exercise you do, the small exercise you do, they repeat the
Right.
same, and
Exactly.
you memorize them. I mean, they're not the ideal way if you to learn a language, because language is communicating in a social context, so you need to be with people, you need to
Sure.
contact people, you need to communicate on certain topics. But it's good when you want to expand your vocabulary. I think
Right.
it's good in this way, because they
Right.
repeat and you reuse and you translate, and in this way it's fine. I use it as well, but
Okay.
not of course not as the only
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
method of learning a language. It's kind of complement.
Right. Also, okay, we have been talking about languages a bit, but we should also discuss what language is actually. How do you imagine a language? Like, is it for you just words plus grammar? Like, you have words and then some rules to arrange them. Is that a good enough definition, or is it an oversimplification? How do you imagine a language?
Hmm. This is one thing I learned from the experience of being in UK,
Mm-hmm.
was that students in primary school, in first grade, they learn how to read in a different way from us in Portugal.
Okay.
So we learn in Portugal, we know what is a noun, what is an article, preposition, and we know the place of them. So first an article, then the noun, and then the verb, and then the preposition. And so we learn basically word by word and naming them,
Sure.
okay? And we know the position of them on the sentence.
The
And
rules.
what is an adjective? What is the function of the adjective? It's to describe the noun. So this kind of thing, sense.
Yeah.
And I've learned in England then they actually start from the full sentence, and then they start from interpreting the sentence.
Uh-huh.
And they don't have these they didn't learn, and they don't have this same perception what this category for each word, what is an article, what is a verb, what is a noun. For them are just words that are placed in a certain way in a sentence, and most importantly is the meaning, then the form, then the structure. I start realizing that when I used to tell my students, it's missing an article here. You have to agree the verb with the subject.
Yeah.
And they used to look at me like, what is a verb? What is a preposition? What is, like, really? They don't know what is that?
Yeah.
On first instance, I thought they just didn't know. Like,
right.
Student doesn't know. Then I realized it was a methodology they use in a primary school when they start teaching a new language, their language.
Right.
I mean, if you think a bit on this, in fact, we don't really need to know
Exactly
the categories of each word.
Okay, you don't need
if the language is to communicate, to use it, right?
Sure. Right. But I think you need, let's say, if I think about myself in the course, in the Portuguese course, if I had not known what a preposition, what a noun, each of these things, then it's tough for me to understand a different language, because this structure gives you a power to apply to any language, and then you can sort of get through a new language that you never had heard of. So for me, I think, although I don't know exactly explicitly what preposition and all these things are, but roughly I have some idea. So if you have just no idea about it, then I think the problem would be of learning a different language that you had never heard of, then, because that language instructor would talk to you in terms of, this is how the preposition changes, then it will become a problem. But like, otherwise it's not a problem for sure. We don't actually.
What are you teaching at school?
How's my
Yeah.
I think we have a similar, it's not that we start with paragraphs and then break it down. We start with what are nouns in our own language, and we have English and we have Hindi. We generally don't have, at least in the school I was in, we did not have another course for a language outside. Even we just had Hindi or English or one other language, Indian language called Sanskrit. Apart from it, we did not have a choice, at least in my school. But maybe some other schools do allow them to have some European languages, because I know a friend who learned German in his school a bit. But
because you learn already two anyway. You learn Hindi and English, so.
But Hindi it's like our own language, so they teach you, and then English for sure, because in India you need English to communicate to people. Other than your state. So in a way, English definitely is required in India. In India, we have like hundreds of languages in total, and then each language, especially Hindi, if I tell you about, if I talk about Hindi, it will have, I think, many dialects. I don't know how many. Like, if I see my mother and my father, I see them having a bit of a different dialect, and their native places are not like, are just within 100 kilometers, but you still see a difference of the dialect. So in that sense,
speaking, from each person is from where someone is.
Yes, you can have you can almost guess where the person is from once they start speaking in Hindi, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
And then there are these other languages in South India, or even slightly above in the central part, which I have no idea about. They have different scripts. So once you go there, you rely either on English or you rely on Hindi. But actually, if you go there, people don't even know Hindi. They don't know English. So it becomes like a different world to you. Just like I am here in Portugal.
Oh God.
It becomes like that. So I can understand.
So Portuguese was your first foreign language.
Yes. Apart, like, English is also in a way foreign, but okay, not
in a way second. Okay.
Yes.
Well, English would be your second language, But
Yes.
foreign language, Portuguese.
Is Portuguese. Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, you did great at class. I mean, to be in the first contact with the foreign language, because we in Europe we are always in contact with the foreign languages.
Right.
Because we travel in Europe, so we have friends from somewhere, so we listen to the new language somewhere. So we're
Yeah.
always in contact with Spanish, with French, but in other countries the same. But
Right.
from you coming to Europe and then learning a completely new language
Sure.
and being great on it because you were great. Nice.
Okay.
Really nice for me.
Actually, I was you were very encouraging throughout the course. I noticed because of you,
Okay.
and also my friends around. They all were really excited to learn the language. So because of them and you, I think also Joanna, of course, but because she had lesser classes to teach. So overall, I would say you had been of great help.
Yes,
Also,
no, I say that especially because I speeded up a bit the
okay.
rhythm, the class, because there were a
Okay.
lot of students with the Latin bases.
Sure.
Not Latin, but from languages whose language native mother tongue was had Latin origin.
Yeah.
Like French, Italian, Spanish, almost, I mean, 80% of the class.
Sure. Yeah.
So as for them it was so easy to move on the topic.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes your life a bit harder because you had to keep up with them, and you know, and it's not easier for us teachers as well
Right.
to keep 2 or 3 speeds in class, because after your I mean, it doesn't work well in the sense. I mean, you should go together, even if some even if some, I mean, can get it easier than others for
Right.
many reasons,
Right.
especially the background. You especially, you were in the middle of them, all of them
Right.
with the with the mother tongues that were from Latin languages.
Right.
So you were in the middle of them, and you're great.
Oh, thanks for this. Also, I wanted to, this reminds me that during the course, I realized that I learned more about English and my own language, because sometimes when I won't understand something, I would have to go back to my own language or to either to English to create a context. Yeah, because English does not have these grammatical genders, right? Like Portuguese
Yeah,
has. But in
true.
Hindi, we have this. So
Okay.
so this way I had to sometimes in my head translate a given paragraph either to Hindi, to depending
Yeah.
upon what information I want to extract. But in Hindi,
Yeah.
I also realized that it's different than Portuguese and English, in the sense that in English and in Portuguese you have like subject, verb, object. This is the rule for sentence creation, right? But in Hindi we have subject, object, and then verb. So
Okay.
so this creates a problem in the sense that if I translate something, and depending upon what information I want to extract, if I am trying to understand the gender part, then I'll think in terms of Hindi, and then if I want to know something of the sentence structure, then I would have to shift to English. So it was becoming a bit complicated to.
Sounds a bit intense, Raman.
Yes,
You,
yes,
you
yes.
should be exhausted after each class. Like,
Yeah. I had to make I had to make notes after it. Okay, this part comes from Hindi, this part comes from English, and then I would sum it up in my head. So roughly, yeah, that's how I learned whatever little I could learn.
One curiosity I found from a student. Well, I found it and I discussed with her. Was the word berinjela. We have it. It's
Right.
eggplant.
Eggplant. Yes.
We called eggplant berinjela in Portugal, and I saw that in India that word existed, like very similar one. Not exactly berinjela, but something like that.
We have bangan. We call it bangan.
I think so, but it's written in a similar way. I think it is.
I don't know. Like,
I will write here.
Okay. But the thing is, we have a different script. So Berengela, you've written Berengela. Okay, so the word, okay, this is the eggplant, right? Eggplant for in Hindi, at
Uh,
least in Hindi, is
exactly. After I read that it has this word berinjela came actually from Hindi,
okay, okay, okay.
when it was the Spanish that brought when they brought the product from India,
Mm-hmm.
and they call it the original name,
Okay.
uh, similar to berinjela, the one you just said. And then because also in Spanish it's similar, it's berinjela, it's
Uh-huh.
similar. I think it's very similar to this one.
Right.
And so basically, this word berinjela we have still nowadays
Mm-hmm.
came from Hindi. And I asked my student, and she found that amazing. And she added that actually, yes, in her maybe in her dialect they use more often, or it's more similar.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And she said that, but of course, it's more common to say eggplant. But in
Mm-hmm.
some fancy restaurant, they use this
Brinjela.
Hindi berinjela. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Okay.
just, I found it just very funny because it's you never think on these kind of words.
Right. Right.
So you have I mean, the vegetable with you, and you don't really think
Where
why they
this
have this
word.
name.
Right.
Yeah, where does his name come from?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so now every time I hear on berinjela, I think about it. Ah, it came from India. That's an Indian
Mm.
name.
Right. 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 There are other similar words. I think we discussed once, like mesa. Mesa. We call it maize. We remove the the extra a there. We call it maize. And then
Huh?
there were many other words which almari. So the wardrobe,
Ah, yeah.
we call it
Yes.
almari, and here you call it
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Armario.
armari. Right, right, right.
Yeah, armario.
Almost
Very
similar.
similar.
Yes,
Very
yes.
similar.
And
Oh, nice.
there were a few other words also which I am forgetting right
Yeah.
now, which are almost similar here and there. Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah.
Also, like now that you have started to teach Portuguese, do you think for you now it has become easier to learn Italian or any other language, or do you think it's just the same, or maybe more harder because you are now too much into a particular language? Does it help you learn other languages?
Yes, definitely. But at the same time, I feel that with Italian, for instance, I attended a course, beginner course,
Mm-hmm.
because I have, as a teacher, I know how important it is to 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 speak to someone in a class, and to exchange the ideas, speaking, using the language in context. And so, as I told you, I do some independent learning, and I watch videos, and I assess, I do podcast, the app, the exercise, and everything. But the I'm very aware that it's not enough. I mean, it helps you to with the videos, for instance, on YouTube. You
Mm-hmm.
understand. I mean, you watch them, and they teach you why the difference between this and that, why when you use it, and you learn that.
Right.
But the best way is always to use it in a real life context.
Sure.
So for me, attended classes are important to learn a new language,
Right.
uh, and also the for the your motivation, to keep motivated. Learning independently
Right.
hard.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is
Definitely.
hard. And you already had to study so much on other things for your job, for your life.
Oh
And
yeah.
I don't want to keep to look to face learning English as something boring and something that I must do, and not as something that I should enjoy doing, and I should do it as a hobby and something extra to my job.
Yeah.
So now I stop with watching videos only if I really find something I like, but I don't do that as an obligation. No, I'm going to dedicate the 30 minutes that you hear sometimes. You should do 30 minutes of study language every day.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
do it. I mean, do it if you feel like doing it,
Mm-hmm.
if you think you will
Exactly.
enjoy it.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
learning a language, you should work on your motivation first.
Exactly.
It, so,
Yeah.
so that's why sometimes it's better you move to the country, spend a weekend there, just to hear and speaking with the native speakers and practice a bit and come back. Then
Right.
spend a full month reading on books about the grammar or whatever, the language.
Right. You think best way to learn is to start with a course, do a course, a preliminary level course. You at least get some idea of the language. Then go to that place if possible, and like hear what people say, how people speak. Then come back and or also try to speak to them, whatever much,
Mm.
however much you can, and then come
Mm.
back and then attend or take like an A2 level course, and then start with. How do you think is what's the best
I
way?
Yeah, I believe on it, definitely. To
Yeah.
start with some instructions, so some classes, so you can understand the language. You can start, and you can learn on the structure of the language, and you start to practice the language with people on same level as you. So you
Right.
start improving your confidence in class, and then yes, definitely started to or simultaneously we use the language outside, and if possible, it depends where you are, but yes, I definitely believe that if you combine both is ideal,
Yeah.
because of course that as teacher our job is to create context in class as more real as possible,
Right.
recreate real life situations when you really have to use a language.
Yeah.
But it's true, as a learner of a new language, I know how hard it is, or how your confidence can trick you sometimes, because if you don't feel that you are okay to speak because you're not confident enough, you will
Right.
not succeed.
Oh
So
yeah.
in
Yeah.
class it gives you the boost to practice with someone with your level, and
Exactly.
teacher is there to support you, to correct you, to help you, and then in a real life context you will be okay, now I know how to say this, now I know
Right.
I'm yeah,
Right. Right.
definitely.
Right. For sure. You know, one day I was right on the last day of the course. I was coming back from my home to the university, towards the university, and there was a guy who stopped me and he said, "Ki ora sound," and I was like, "We were taught
Ah!
exactly this."
I love this guy already.
And then let now you'll see, now you'll love me, because what I did was I knew what he said and I was like, I should say something in Portuguese before telling him the time. So I asked him, pode você repetir? I was like, I knew what you said, but please repeat.
Okay,
just
boa.
just so that I practiced for no reason. Like, and then I told him the time. I could tell him the time. It was 11:10,
I
but I
paid
could.
this guy to ask you this question. You know, I paid him. I
Sorry.
paid him. Yeah,
Ape
yeah,
Lima.
yeah. This guy, yeah, I paid him. I say, when you finish the class, go
I see.
talk to the student and ask him.
Yeah. And then I walked back and I was like, I know Portuguese already. Although, it gives you a sudden boost for no reason. Although it's the next person you meet, you might not be able to talk to him at all. But that moment was like, I can speak here. It
Nice.
gave
So
me a
you were
boost.
able to answer to him.
Yes, yes, I could tell him the time because we had
Perfect.
done the class already. So although I knew that he's asking me ki aura sound, I just to practice,
Oh,
I asked him, can you
I'm very happy this happened.
right, right, right.
No, because in this moment you realize how useful the classes are. Say,
Oh
I
yeah.
was learning really something useful.
Oh yeah,
People
yeah.
out of the university really ask these kind of things.
Exactly, exactly. Also,
But do
like,
you know, once happened to me on a very crowded street. in a Porto city center via Santa Catarina.
Mm-hmm.
An Italian woman stopped me and asked me in Italian the directions to a place, and I knew where the place was and I understood the question, but I couldn't say anything. I froze. She asked me and I was like, but I couldn't think fast. Understand, on that moment, I couldn't think fast and tell her. So basically, I use English, Spanish, everything, but no Italian.
Right. And back then I knew you knew Italian,
When
right?
she left, I felt so an idiot. They were like, I knew how to say that. What happened to me?
Right.
But it was just, you don't expect that.
Sure.
To use another language in your country that you're not in the context where people speak that language.
Right.
And you don't expect that, and you have to answer that fast because she's waiting an answer. I like, nothing. After I laughed for half an hour, I say, I'm so stupid. What happened to me? But
although I think you could have replied in Portuguese also. She would be fine because she would understand, right?
I think so. That's why she asked in Italian as well.
Right. I was, I was speaking to my
You did better than me.
But
you were able to answer that.
But I've told you only.
My question was very easy too. It was a very easy answer as well, but I couldn't say it.
But I haven't told you my failure stories. There's been so many times when I struggled to speak anything, not because somebody randomly came to me and asked, but because I wanted to ask something. But at least after the course, although during the course there were some moments like that, but nowadays, like now, I know a bit enough of Portuguese that I can almost tell them what I'm trying to say, although not always. Sometimes it's like I have no idea what to say. Recently something happened, but in the stores, when I want to ask, let's say, where's the stationery or something, I can easily ask. That has at least happened for now, so it's nice. Helping me for sure.
No, because you still, I mean, of course you learn every day. You just look around you and you always, I mean, when you're back in the country, you're always learning. You're receiving input of the language every day. It's okay, but of course speaking is different. You really you need to have the basics of the language to understand what you should say and which way. But and of course the course you did were not enough. It was just the beginning. But gives you just an idea how the language is formed and the structure, the morphology of the language. After it's your job to learn progress and to work on it and to look for information.
Right. The other day I was walking towards Braga Park, and I think right before Christmas, around Christmas time, and I saw on the one of the walls of Braga Park, it was written, I still remember it, "O Natal e para celebramos juntos," something like this. And I could understand it, that Christmas is to celebrate together, and instantly I could understand it. So
I mean, come on, Raman. Sorry to interrupt you, but you have a full class about Christmas. You should.
Oh yes, for sure. But still, we just had one class, or that also the last one. So yeah, it helped.
Celebramos. Yeah, we studied this. Of course, no excuse there, Raman. You should be able to.
But what I'm trying to say is that it has given me some confidence to go out and try to speak sometimes, although not always, but sometimes I do try. And especially in reading parts, every day I'm learning some new words, almost every other day, and I write them down so that I remember them later. So it is for sure helping me a lot, the course. And then I don't think if I'll continue this semester because there's some other work that I have to do, but next semester I'll definitely continue with the next part of the course.
Yeah, we are starting the evening courses in March.
In March,
if you have time, then
March
will be the same 3 times a week, one online in March. From the 7th.
Okay. From 7th or 27th?
I'm not promoting the courses.
Yeah.
No, because I always tell my students, please continue studying, go continue learning, because I feel so bad about having lost my French, because in the end it was a loss of energy and time I dedicated to that language, and now I, I mean I'm not able to use it. So
Right.
why? I mean, for the mark, for the marks to get to the level at high school. I mean, no, of course, learning a language is to use it
For sure.
to being able to expand your views of the world and having opportunities to, who knows, to find personal, professional opportunities abroad and
For
use
sure.
this language for these purposes. So if you already start with studying a language, if you stop, you will forget. So
Oh yeah.
basically, you just lost your time and your
Exactly.
energy.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Continue, even if you don't need to be an advanced student or proficient or whatever, but at least to get a level that you will always remember something, you will always being able to say something on
Right.
that level.
Right. That is true. In March, I think, like, I thought the course has already started. I didn't know. I thought it's starting in
No,
January.
no, we are finishing, actually. We are finishing our annual courses.
Ah, okay.
They finish next week,
Mm-hmm.
and then they start the new ones. The annual courses are those courses run every morning, okay,
Okay.
intensive.
Mm-hmm.
And then the evening courses, they will start in March. So basically, it's when the students from Erasmus come,
Right.
and then we offer them these courses.
Right. I was also like, I think last month I was talking to my supervisor, and he was telling me how he's amazed how his daughter is learning Portuguese, because to a kid it's not that you are giving any formal instruction that if the pronoun is I, then use this form of the verb. You don't give any formal instruction. So he was telling me that she has these verbs that end with ar that we learned in our course. So they have a
Mhm.
specific rule of how they change, right, how they conjugate. And he was telling me that she was using the same rule to an exceptional case, which was like to the verb fazar, where it does not apply. So he was amazed at how his daughter is able to abstract out the idea of the rule, which was not formally taught at all, and she was applying it on a similar scenario, although it's an
Okay.
exception. So he was telling me how kids are so fluid in their sort of understanding of language, and when we grow up, it becomes so difficult to learn a new language. So do you also notice, of course you also notice that because that's why you're teaching the course, but have you seen, like, have you ever thought how kids are able to learn languages so quick, how they are able to, even it's not that we are telling them how to apply this rule, that rule, just out of listening from their mother or parents, they are able to get so
Yeah.
much out of it.
Yeah, you can't control how easier or faster a
Right.
student learns, because
Right.
there are many conditions involved: your mother tongue, your motivation, your interests or purposes for the language, um, your vocation to learn a language as well.
Yeah.
There are students who can have they are great in learning language. Others not so much, and they need to work harder to reach the same level as others. So basically, our job is to guide you, to create the situations where you have to communicate, explain you I mean, there's many parts. So but the main part is to create the situation when you have to talk. But of
Right.
course, you need to have a bit the background, the grammar, vocabulary, so you are able to discuss on that topic. To discuss on that topic, you need to know some vocabulary on this, and
Right.
and how to form the sentence, which grammar construction you need, if you're speaking about a future situation, a present situation, a future, or
Right.
hypothetical situation. So this is something that basically we create the situations, we create the environment, let's say, but then you are the actors who are going to perform.
Yeah.
And our job after that is just to guide you, to say, okay, you need to work harder on this, or improve that, or correct you on this, on check
Right.
this. But
Right.
it's really a process, and each person is different. Some people that are great with the grammar, and others are better with the listening, others with the writing,
Right.
and that's okay. And by the end of the course, we assess students on the 4 skills, so on speaking, on listening, on writing, on reading. And some people are very good on some skills and less good on others, and that's totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But of course, we should always give feedback. Okay, so your speaking is great, but you should work a bit more on your writing, and then, I mean, the key is to really keep giving feedback. Do this,
Right.
do that.
Yeah.
Even small tasks, this is correct, that's not, so revise that, go through that again.
Right.
So this is the way students know that there are some areas where it's good, it's already fine, and the other ones is still needed to work on it a bit of
Right.
more.
I feel that in the course there should also be something that teaches you how to get help, or some emergency situation words which we, I think, don't learn. They might be really handy in some situations. I think we could create some scenarios where maybe you're talking on a phone call to some, calling for an ambulance or something, I don't know, something
Yeah,
like that. There could be these very important aspects which I think should be part of the
yeah, they
whole.
are not a beginner level, but from A2 level, so from upper beginner, they started to, it's one of the main topics actually, the
Okay.
topic related with the medicine, with going to doctor, because
Mm-hmm.
it's the hardest context to communicate. How,
Mm-hmm.
even in your mother tongue, it's so hard to express your feelings or your symptoms, how you are, how you feel.
Right,
In
right,
a
right.
foreign language, it's even harder. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't feel good, and each language has its own way as well to express himself. I learned that from English as well, even though I was already, I was good with English when I was in UK.
Mm-hmm.
In every situation when I had to go to doctor, even for very simple things, situations, problems, I always felt really anxious on just the idea of being there.
Right.
And so speaking another language in a context where you feel anxious is really hard.
Sure.
So that's why it's true, we practice a lot this topic in class, this context. If you go into appointment,
Mm-hmm.
how to say to the doctor what you feel, how you feel, how often you feel that,
Mm-hmm.
the medication, because after they prescribe you something, but if you don't understand, I mean, how dangerous it can be. So,
Yeah, yeah,
so
right, right,
yes,
right.
a topic that in every level we
Mhm.
work
Oh,
on this topic, we explore this topic. It's really important.
sure, sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I mean, you go to restaurant, you don't understand, it's fine. You read the menu, you point,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Fine, it's okay.
Right.
But in a doctor, it's not exactly like that. I mean, you can point, but
Oh, yeah, exactly. She won't understand
and
almost.
that's it, all right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense. So A2, level A2 starts, at least level A2 covers parts of these emergency situations, right?
We started from the upper beginners, so A2.
Okay.
I mean, beginners, I mean, maybe a longer course because you're short,
Mm-hmm.
but in the annual courses, for instance, they for the more than 100 hours course, let's say, we started with this topic as well.
Okay, I see. And this
Quite complex. That's why we don't teach it in the beginners, because quite complex to express yourself, explain
sure, sure, sure.
what is hurting you, where you feel
Yeah,
the pain, how
right.
often you feel it, and especially because you need also quarteto perfeito composto. Eu tenho tido estas dores, so I have had that pains.
Uh-huh.
So even the verb construction is a bit complex to be taught in a beginner level.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And in the annual course, each week it's not 3 hours, just like us. It's not 3 hours. It's more than not 3 hours. Sorry, not three classes. It's more than three classes in the annual
They have
course.
14 hours per week.
Oh wow.
14.
We had 6 hours.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
I
they
see.
have double, more than double. They
Right,
have
right,
14.
right.
They usually have 3 mornings full, four
Mm-hmm.
hours,
Okay,
one morning half, so 3 full, 1 half, and then Friday morning free.
okay. So
It's
it's
quite reasonable. I mean, it's okay.
right, right. And I think
And
it's for those who are like coming here just to learn the language.
yes, well, we have actually people from many, well, with many interests, but like or because they want to learn the language, because some students are doing they're doing a master degree, so
Mm-hmm.
they really needed to boost their Portuguese to really succeed in their studies and master's degrees, and so on.
Mm,
Others are coming from protocols with the universities abroad, with the Chinese universities to have this year abroad in their degrees. So they come here, they study in the country where we speak Portuguese for
right.
1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Others are immigrants who moved to Portugal, so they want to learn the language.
Right, right, right.
So there are many
Oh,
situations
yeah.
like that.
And have you been to like these Portuguese speaking countries? Any of these,
I've
Brazil or
been um,
Angola?
I've been in Cape Verde, Cabo Verde,
Okay, yeah.
Ilha do Sal,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been in Santo Tomé e Príncipe. So I've been basically in the highlands.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have never been in Brazil. I would love to.
And the places that you've been, they have a different dialect, or is it almost?
Yes, they do. They do. They have their native dialects.
Mm-hmm.
In special, I mean, in all of them. Um, but in Santo Tomé and Príncipe, they have their dialects, but they use Portuguese. Though it's their first, not first for many will be second, but it's official. Well, it's for all of them. It's official language, but they really use Portuguese. It's not like most, like in Angola or Cape Verde, where
Mm-hmm.
they use their dialects and they
Mm-hmm.
use Portuguese for official situations at school
Right.
um, or well, when official
Any?
contexts. Yeah,
Sure, sure, sure.
in Santo Tomé e Príncipe they actually speak Portuguese.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
anyway, so it was really nice, and it was a very good experience because not only the language but also the culture. We
Mm-hmm.
shared a lot of cultural things with Santo Tomé. Santo Tomé is quite far. Okay, it's 8 hours flight,
Okay.
and in the Gulf of Guinea. So you don't expect to arrive to this small country in the middle of the ocean in Africa and find people speaking your language and
Yeah.
know so much about your culture as well.
Mm.
Like I was supporting Porto and Benfica when I arrived, because Porto and Benfica were playing the night before.
Okay.
And I knew nothing about the match. I don't follow football, and people
Mm-hmm.
there were like, because it's Sunday night they were playing. You said okay, and they knew the names of every football player and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, this is no. In the same way, it's an amazing experience to feel like
Right.
connected with those people straight away.
Right. Like in home, away from home.
Yeah, totally. And the
Nice.
language helps a lot. When you arrive at a place where they speak your language, I mean, the connection is immediate. You speaking with someone without the barriers of problems with misunderstandings of the foreign language,
Right.
I mean, it's so much easier, and you connect with the people in a
Yeah. Yeah.
higher level.
Sure.
You,
Sure.
you
Yeah.
should feel that as well. Not much with Hindi, but with English. When you can travel everywhere, people
Yeah.
speak English, and it's fine, right? You can
Yes.
communicate
Yes.
with anyone, any trouble, any problem. So that's the
Right.
same with us.
Sure, sure. Yeah. I feel that barrier here in the sense that not many, also in India, also, not many people speak English here. So sometimes it becomes a bit isolating in the sense that it's almost
Yeah,
not possible to communicate with them. Either you take out Google Translator or
yeah,
so, and which takes a lot of time if you have to say something more complex. So you end up like leaving the situation. But yeah,
yeah.
I understand. Uh,
So
yeah, also like there was another question which is slightly on the technical side coming, not a question actually. I was when we were doing the course, one thing that I realized about English also, which I had never realized, was that these languages like English, Portuguese, Italian, these are not like phonetic languages. And by phonetic, I don't know if it's the correct term or not, but what I mean is that so each letter that we have in the alphabets, they
yeah,
let's talk about English. So we know that this letter, let's say we call it A, we know that this symbol encodes this sound. When we will see the symbol, we'll say A, and when we'll see the symbol, we'll call it B, and so on. And now when we like put them together, let's say we construct a word out of it. Let's say we construct like cat. Now we are
yeah.
not, now we are not pronouncing C the way we were pronouncing it when it was in isolation. Now it's
Yeah.
like cat, it becomes, you don't say C the way you say it. But in Hindi, we have this like whatever letter you have, the way you will read it in isolation is how you will read it in the letter also. So
Okay.
so once you learn the letters, although there are like 52 letters to learn, but once you
Yeah.
learn them and a few accents,
Safe.
then
It's after it's safe. You know that is this way you have to learn. So you
yes,
say so it's fine.
yeah, and then when you just combine any, you read any letter, that's how you will read it in the word also. So it makes like it makes for someone, it makes it much easier to learn a language, I feel. I don't know, of course the script would sound very different, like how would you understand how this symbol looks like? So that will be a challenge in the beginning, but I think once they get through it, it could be much easier to learn, which
Yeah.
is something I found that English and Portuguese does not have. And it felt a bit weird, like why do you encode that sound in the letter when you are not going to use it the way how you've encoded it? So
Yeah.
so this is
Uh,
some.
Portuguese is a very phonetic language, but not as much as English. English is, in fact, a very phonetic language. With the
Okay.
Portuguese, the troubles are with the vowels
Mm-hmm.
because we have 11 sounds for the vowels. So we have 5 vowels, but we have 11 sounds. So this
Right.
means each one, wa, a could be a,
Right.
right? We could be e, and
Right.
sometimes it's silent, the end of words.
Yeah.
O could be u,
Ooh.
o, u, and
Right.
then u.
Right.
Um, so and the O could be o, u, and o as well.
Right.
O, u. So the I mean the trouble, let's say, would be with this, how to know when to
When to change.
say one and the other one. The consonants don't give us so much troubles, I think. I mean, they are quite literal. You can,
Mm-hmm.
what you read, you say, and it's okay. There
Right.
are some situations when you combine the C with E,
Mm-hmm.
the sound is C. You
Yeah.
combine the C with A, the sound is K. So
Ka.
it's basically what comes after the consonant, which
Right.
vowel comes after, and then it changes the
The
sound.
sound. Yeah.
So it happens for the C and for the G,
Mm-hmm.
G, 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 A, G, G, O, Go, G, E, G.
Right.
So apart of those ones, those cases, the other ones are okay. The H is silent, so we don't say, we don't pronounce, we don't use it, we don't say it.
Mm-hmm.
But the other ones are okay. I think are quite literal. With Italian, you asked if I realized that I mean, I didn't, to be honest, I didn't analyze, and I didn't study the pronunciation as much as I should, because the Italian pronunciation is really hard. I find it really hard. I'm like, I read the sentence and I understand it. I understand the meaning, or I'm able even to speak.
Yeah.
But the pronunciation always takes the best of me. There's always someone correcting me. But that's normal, because I'm a beginner as well. So when you're a beginner, of course, you still don't know very well how to pronounce it.
Right.
They are really more, I think it's more phonetic. I think Italian is more phonetic than Portuguese, even though the vowels, they have less sounds for the vowels than we have in Portuguese. We have 11, they have only 9 different sounds. But still.
Right.
But for the consonants, I cannot tell you, in this case or that case, because I didn't study this that deeply. But I feel it when I pronounce, when they say like double Z, like pizza. You should say pizza. I'm saying it, and I'm sure that someone out there will say, no, it's not like that. Pizza. You know, they're really precise on the way they say it.
Anita might comment.
Yeah. Yacha, the double G. I think I'm saying it properly, but there's always someone say, no, this way, that.
Sure.
Okay, Yacha. Okay.
Right. You know, I live with a friend who's from Brazil, and I notice many differences in how the pronunciation is. Like, for example, they say Universidade to be Universidade.
Yeah.
And now I've begun to notice many differences when I hear people. I can almost guess if he's a Brazilian or a Portuguese. So yeah, for sure, I understand.
Our differences are mainly with the pronunciation and some words, vocabulary, that some the lexical. So we have some words in Portugal that they have other ones in a bit like England and America, you know, the pronunciation is different. Some words are different, but the language is the same. But the pronunciation is very different, in fact. And they have this D, for us is silent, almost silent. Universidade. We don't pronounce the last E. And they say Universidade, so they pronounce it G.
Right.
And many others,
Yes.
The foreigners, they tend to prefer the Brazilian variation because of that, because they can't, I cannot say that it's literal because there's no G in the word, okay? But it sounds more musical, more phonetic for them, so they kind of feel more attracted for this kind of pronunciation. Our sounds a bit more rigid, more like, you know, serious.
Maybe it's because maybe it could be because so many people, like Brazil has a much bigger population than here, maybe in that sense, and there are so many YouTubers and stuff. I see.
If you don't mind, we'll finish here. I have some work to do still.
Oh, sure.